I'm Paul Van Squike of Taekwondo Guide, and this, you know what this is Topic Tuesday. Topic Tuesday, I just talk. There's not any fancy visuals, so you might as well listen to this one. Listen to it while you're washing your supercars or driving to work. It's all about Taekwondo, which you love. Let's get into our first topic, which comes from Potato Bot 8998. You have to read that with an Irish accent because it says potato. Potato Bot says, why is Taekwondo mostly legs now? The word Taekwondo itself is art of hands and legs, yet I see only art of legs. Mind doing it for Topic Tuesday? I do not mind. That's a very good question. So understand that most of the martial arts we practice today are modern inventions. They contain many techniques from older martial arts, but they're conglomerized in a way, repackaged, they're modern inventions, and most of them were trying to ride a particular wave at that point in history, which was all about getting onto the sports scene. Take Japan as an example. They were attempting a rapid modernization, westernization, and one of the things they were trying to do, one of the waves they were trying to ride, was getting on that sports scene. And they took old martial arts like kenjutsu and jujutsu, and they reconcocted them. They turned them into judo and kendo. Now this is a very brief, let's put it that way, explanation of what happened, but basically these old martial arts got turned into modern sports comparable with things like boxing and cricket and wrestling that was being done in the West. This was all an attempt to take your kids and give them physically fit bodies and disciplined minds so they would make excellent future soldiers and factory workers. Okay, so all these martial arts are trying to ride that wave. Now, if you're trying to sort of make your martial art into a popular sport, you need a unique selling point. So if you took Taekwondo and only made it hands, well, now it would look pretty much just like boxing, and so it doesn't have a unique selling point. If you split 50-50 between hands and legs, now it's going to look a lot like karate, which is what it was based off of when it was created. So you want something to distinguish it from that. All right, now you pour 80% of your training times into kicks. Suddenly you've got something that nobody else is doing. You've got these really cool kicks, and you can do them and they can't because you're spending 80% of your time working on kicks instead of 50-50 hands and legs. Now, when I talk about this, I'm really referring to the Olympic sport version of Taekwondo, which is what most people think of when they say Taekwondo, but there are still traditional dojangs that spend a lot of time working on the hand techniques. So, let's put those aside and just talk about sport Taekwondo. It's a unique selling point. You can think of cars doing the same thing. Now, on one end you might have something like a Porsche, which is like this little nimble sports car. Its unique selling point is that it's fast and it's maneuverable and it's a lot of fun. And then on the totally other end of the spectrum, you might have something like a Jeep Wrangler, and its selling point is that it's going to take you up a mountain. You wouldn't try to use those for the same thing, and you wouldn't try to sell them in the same way. Now, if you had a Porsche that was basically identical to a Jeep Wrangler, it's not creating a unique selling point for it. The brand image isn't there. It's not representing anything that people can connect to, let's put it that way. So Taekwondo and all these other martial arts were trying to establish themselves as sort of a brand. And in the case of Taekwondo, they had their kicking as a unique selling point. Now, is this good? Is this bad? It really just depends on what you want out of your training. And if you want some hand techniques, well, you can either find a Taekwondo school that does focus on those old techniques more than your standard sports school, or you could cross-train, which leads me into the next question, which is from Steve Karp. He writes, "Hello, Master Paul. I'd like to ask another Topic Tuesday question, if I may. For people studying and training in Taekwondo, can you recommend any other martial arts that might complement Taekwondo, either to study consecutively with Taekwondo or after one has achieved a level of competency in Taekwondo that they're comfortable with? The goals for learning another martial art or multiple arts alongside or in addition to Taekwondo could either be for sport application, sparring, sanctioned tournaments, etc., or for practical application, self-defense, combatives, etc. Thank you." Yeah, great question. Great question there, Steve. So first, as far as cross-training is concerned, I strongly recommend it. I only recommend that you don't do it too early or that you choose something that's so completely different from, say, Taekwondo that it doesn't cross over at all. So, for example, it would be a very bad idea to start training in Taekwondo and Shotokan Karate at the same time. Why? Well, they have very similar techniques that are different in a lot of little ways. That will confuse you if you're a beginner. Further, if you don't have a lot of time to spend training in multiple martial arts, you're really not going to get anything out of either if you're just putting a small amount of time into each. It would be better to take the time you have and consolidate it into one system until you learn it to the point of being competent at it before you go and try something else. That being said, it really depends on the goal of the practitioner, as Steve mentioned. Me personally, I would pick something completely different from Taekwondo to cross-train in. So what do I think pairs really nicely with it? If you're just talking about being a well-rounded, unarmed martial artist, Judo or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Think of Taekwondo as being very effective at a long range. What happens when Taekwondo techniques break down? You move into a clinch. Well, if you know a lot of techniques from the clinch, such as the throws of Judo or the ground fighting of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you'll be dangerous from far away or from up close. And my experience is that middle range isn't something you really necessarily need to have much of a toolbox for. You can sort of move from long to super close, and as long as you have tools in both those ranges, you're pretty nicely covered. Not saying you should never study trap fighting or anything like that, or clinch work that might be out of something like Muay Thai. But if you've got skills from long range and close range, that's going to cover your bases pretty darn nicely. That's all I'm saying. All right, so that would be like from just a practical sort of, if I had to get in a fight, what would I pair with Taekwondo? One of those two. Now you could choose something like a weapon art as well, because most Taekwondo dojongs don't spend much time with weapons, and if they do, it's purely from a showy demonstration sort of standpoint. So fencing, eskrima, kendo, those are all really great weapon arts to pair with Taekwondo. I did some fencing for a while. That was a blast. I would strongly recommend it if you're interested. Okay. For me, I picked Aikido. Is it the best one from the standpoint of I'm going to get in a fight? These are the two things that will pair the best? No, but it had a really nice sort of blend of traditional Japanese martial arts. So I got some weapons training out of it. I got the standard grappling toolbox or anti-grappling toolbox, depending on how you want to look at it, that comes with Aikido, like your wrist locks and your projection throws and those sorts of things. And learn to roll and fall with comfort. So all of those things were still stuff that we never spent time doing in my Taekwondo and Tang Soo Do training. So that's my recommendation. Pick something that's totally different from your Taekwondo training, and you're better off putting your time into one thing and getting good at that before you try to cross-train too much, unless you've just got tons of time to put into martial arts. If you're a twice-a-weeker, don't do one day in one martial art and one day in another. You got to go to 4 days a week if you want to study 2. Does that make sense? Okay, my next question comes from Float Yacht Foo. And he says, I'm assuming it's a he. I have a question for Topic Tuesday. Can the 360 and 720 kicks be used in real life applications? Float yacht foo, I assume by real life applications you mean on the street. So I'm gonna roll with that. We're assuming it means on the street. Could you use them? Yes, you can use anything you want in a street fight. To save your life, you could use a jump spinning hook kick or a 540 or whatever else that we're talking about. You could roll around on the floor and hope to spring up and kick someone in the jaw. All of those things do not have a 0% chance of working. They have some chance of working. The question is, why would you do that when there are lower risk options with the same reward? So you want to weigh your risks and your rewards. It's a simple equation people do in business and all sorts of other things. Risk, reward. So if you have a technique that delivers the same amount of power, or close to it, but doesn't expose you, doesn't take as long to execute, doesn't cause a major situation if you don't recover from missing it, that's going to be your better option for something like trying to save your life. Lower the risks and keep the same reward. Now, like I say, anything could work, but why? Now, if you want to look cool, I get it, but then maybe use those techniques for demonstrations, board breaks, things like that, and then you can show off and look really awesome with those fancier kicks. If you're fighting in some sort of like mixed martial arts venue, there is the possibility of landing one of those things and like being immortalized in a highlight reel forever. So I can understand the appeal from that standpoint. Once again, you're better off focusing on the lower risk techniques, but I get it. I get wanting to immortalize yourself for, that guy, I can't remember who it was, but he jumped off the cage and roundhouse kicked a guy in the head midair. I mean, we'll all remember that forever. So I guess it depends on your goal in a situation like that. They don't work way more often than they do. Let's put it that way. So if you're going to throw it, you better be a way better fighter than the other person, or really just think you're lucky in that moment. Hey, I've got some really awesome news. I just finished my sparring course. Now, you can find a lot of sparring courses on the internet out there, and they're like 50,000 different paddle combinations to practice. All right, well, whatever. You can find that stuff on YouTube all the time. It's not really that big a deal. This course is different. It's all about building the most important part of your sparring, which is reflexes. How to develop the reflexes you need for sparring and how to develop them as quickly and as safely as possible. I'll put a link out there for you if you're interested. If you buy within the first week of its launch, it is 33% off. It's selling for only $9.99, which is less than a chicken chalupa combo that you get at Taco Bell. That's right, my sparring course, which will help you build the reflexes you need to get really good at sparring, is less than lunch at Taco Bell. It's a no-brainer. Check it out. Follow the link, or if you'd like to, leave me a comment for the next Topic Tuesday so I can talk about what you want me to talk about. I've loved doing these Topic Tuesdays, and right now I am recovering from all kinds of stuff, but arthritis in the hip is one of the common things I talk about. So I've been doing technique videos. So keep those Topic Tuesday questions coming, because I'm loving this and I'm happy to talk about what you want me to talk about. Until next time.